have a great personality, someone who's had a lot of experience in global businesses, Fortune 500 companies. You've been managing funds up to, I saw something like 520 something billion dollars. I was like, wow. So you've been someone who has seen it all when it comes to, human resource and technology, head of talent management, head of customer success. I believe there's a whole lot you have to share. And in this short period of time, I know the time is currently not going to be enough, but um, I believe people will learn a lot from this short time that you're going to spend with us. So let me give you the floor to introduce yourself properly. I know a lot of people know you, but just tell us who Ken is.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me this time. Uh, Ken Pearson. My latest role is with an organization called Stratosphere Management Consultants. I am a uh, managing partner in the firm that focuses on HR and HR technology. Um, I've spent a career in various functional area operations, HR, retail industry, consulted with major firms such as in different industries such as healthcare, oil and gas, retail, to name a few. And I started in the workforce when I was about 14 years old. My first job that I was actually paying taxes on was working for the Burger King Corporation. I worked for the McDonald's Corporation, then worked for Walmart, Stores Incorporated. Then went into kind of the technology space with SAP. And now I'm kind of using my experience and my knowledge to help others and to be successful and coach and mentor other people to be successful in their careers.
All right, that's great. So all through your career, what has been that motivating force, that driving force and passion for you?
You um, that's a really good question. What's always been my driving force is to help others uh, unleash their fullest potential, to unlock their fullest potential. I've always thought of myself as somebody that wants to help people be better than me, and could always find people in the talent space that I would one day be proud to work for, and help them achieve their goals. So that to me is one of the critical factors of my success, is always helping people to be to achieve their full potential, and always looking for people that are, and surrounding yourself with people that are better than you.
All right. Okay, let me ask this. In your career, what do you say has been the most challenging situation you found yourself, and how did you get out of it?
The most challenging situation, and how did I get out of it? Well, I would say that the most challenging situations were when I thought I had the answers, and I felt that my idea was good, but I didn't necessarily seek out and collaborate with others. I would say that very young in my career, I didn't collaborate with the stakeholders that I should have collaborated with. Didn't seek the sponsorship or the buy-in from senior leadership, and those ended up being some of the most difficult and quite candidly painful setbacks of my career. One story in particular where I went into the vice chairman of the board for Walmart, and I was head of talent at the time. And I thought I had the answers, and I sat down with him and I said, "Hey, here's my plan. Here's what I want to do. Here's all these programs we should start initiating in the company." And he looked at me and said, "When you can actually take the overarching organizational strategy and business plan and tell me what the people implications of that are, and then tell me how you're going to address those people implications, then I'll listen to you. But at that point, I was dismissed from his office, and that was like a tipping point in my career to say, okay, it is so critically important that in the business world, you understand, particularly from an HR standpoint, you specifically understand what the business is trying to achieve, and you look at how the business can achieve that through people. So I had to reevaluate my approach on things, and I learned that I was never going to get dismissed from the from a senior executive's office again, and I would start to do things differently and work with people to understand how we actually move the company forward through people capabilities.
All right, that's wonderful. In your experience, how do you approach talent acquisition now in this digital age? How do you leverage technology to get the top tier talents?
Mm. I think this is really more on the candidate than it is on the company. Very strong opinion on the talent acquisition technology um, has made organizations kind of lazy in the fact that they can just do a search and they get all these resumes and then they filter through them. I think that the nowadays it's really up to the candidate to really work on their networking, and I think they should be utilizing technologies like LinkedIn and social networking to build their network so that they have visibility and contact with the people that actually are the decision makers. I think recruiters do a good job of just kind of the first pass, but it really is, it does come down to your skills and your abilities, but it does then come down to, do people know you? Do they know what you're capable of? Do they know what you actually have done? And you can't really know that from a CV or an applicant tracking system. You have to know that through relationships. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I see. People get frustrated because they put their resume into this technology abyss and they don't get a call back. And they're like, why is nobody calling me back? Well, it's really because nobody knows you. And you're not that piece of paper. You are a culmination of your experiences, your diversity, your life, and people need to know that. And the only way people know that is through your network.
Right. So that means the singular thing a young person can do is to build strong network.
Yep.
So what else can they do to be able to attract big companies?
So that they can attract big companies. I think one of the things I'm seeing a trend in is in these certifications, and really seeking out the roles that they aspire to be in, is looking for the reputable certifications. In fact, I've been coaching several clients on their next career move, and finding out that their degree only goes so far. That's something that you should be proud of. The certifications in these specific disciplines seem to be a lot more attractive than just the degree, because the degree kind of, you get it, and then there's nothing that you're doing to keep it up. When you're looking at certifications, those are kind of the future in, okay, I have to know a body of knowledge to keep this up, but then I have to use experience and continuing education. So I think there's a balance. I think people do need to get the college education, but I also think they need to understand, how do you show that you are a master in the area they're on? And I think these certifications, these recruiters and companies are looking at these more and more importantly than a degree. For instance, I got my degree 20 years ago. So, it's, well, what have you done in that 20 years to stay current in the space and the discipline that you're wanting to be in?
That's a very big question. That's a very big question. So let me ask this now. You've actually been a coach to many Fortune 500 companies. What have you seen as the biggest challenge that some of these companies have?
Talent. It really is finding talent. And I don't think that these organizations clearly have a, a solid process on one, how to identify, how to develop, how to promote uh, internal talent, which then, in my opinion, increases recruiting costs for external talent. I think you should have a good blend, but that to me is the biggest problem is that they just don't know how to effectively manage talent. And then organizations go through these cycles of, okay, we've been doing great, and then all of a sudden business isn't so great, so then we lay off people and we lose all that talent when we didn't invest in that talent while it was with us. And we didn't really have to lose it. We just had to really shift people around to be. I don't think organizations know how to move talent effectively. They don't know how to shift it around to put them in the right places or develop them to be in those spaces. And then they end up going through these horrific layoffs and downsizing, and then they have to repeat the same cycle over and over again, when all they needed to do is really have a clear picture of what their internal talent looked like and figure out how they put people in the right spots. And I think the other fundamental problem is the traditional recruiting model is that we hire to a requisition that we've created, but we're actually not hiring the human. We're not hiring the attitudes and the work ethic and the proven results. We're just kind of hiring to a job description. And I think that's an antiquated model. I'd really like to see that change. That the companies look to hiring people that are motivated, want to help the company succeed, have aptitude, and are they innovative? Are they adaptable? Are they all about continuous learning? Do they have good communication skills? But hiring to these rigid job descriptions that we've created out of some legal obligation or whatnot, I don't think is the right hiring model in the future. I think we need to look at potential. We need to look at leadership skills, their ability to think innovatively. And I think we should be assessing those type of things versus, do you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a master's degree? Do you have 5 to 10 years in doing X, Y, and Z? I think it's just becoming extremely antiquated.
Wow. Okay, that's a very big angle you are looking at now. So let me think about it like this. For someone who is starting off from the bottom of the ladder, what is that singular skill the person needs to get to the top as a maybe an executive or something?
I would say the number one in my mind is adaptability and agility.
Wow.
I think, and the reason I think that is that we're just seeing so many quantum leaps in how technology is changing business, and I think that people need to understand that, I might be working on a project for 6 months, and that's no longer relevant, and I've got to quickly switch and go some other direction. I think also adaptability and I'll even combine that with the ability for people to bring people together and collaborate, which is part of adaptability. I think sometimes so many things get done in business in silos. Okay, this is the HR, but they didn't understand that there's business outcomes that have to happen with, this technology advance, and there's, I have to work with IT, and I have to work with business partners. It's the ability to understand how all the dots connect, and how you bring people together to ensure that you have the sponsorship and support of the to move things forward, and move those forward very quickly and rapidly. So again, I just go back to adaptability is probably the number one competency or strength that somebody starting at the bottom is the quicker you can adjust to things, the faster that you can change as the organization shifts. Then I think that's going to be your number one component to success.
All right. So, how do you view work from home versus work in the office? What's your view about it in your experience? How effective?
Well, having being somebody that's worked from home for the last 13 years, I found it very effective for myself. I think that there there should be that organizations should be looking at more hybrid approaches, and I think it has to deal specifically with the type of worker that you are. I think definitely from a knowledge worker standpoint, it's easier. Uh, and I think sometimes we have to understand the individual's personality. What are they most productive doing? And a lot of people are more productive in a workplace environment. They thrive on that face-to-face interaction, not the Zoom meetings, if you will. And I think companies should look at. I don't think that the model should be homogeneous as much as it should be heterogeneous, in the sense of, okay, how do I get the most productivity out of this person? What motivates them? And if that's an office environment, that is more of their motivation, then I probably need to have some sort of office space for them to come into. If it is remote, I think that then you need to understand that in a remote environment, that your focus is no longer on, do I see you in a seat in a desk, as much as, am I getting the results that I need out of this individual? Are they hitting their goals and the objectives that we've mutually agreed upon? And it's really not, shouldn't be concerning about how much time I'm sitting in a chair and in front of my computer. So that was a long-winded way to say of I'm a fan of remote, because I've had the last 13 years to experience it, and it's been great for me. But I understand that individuals have different motivation, and companies should look at that in the strategy of, okay, how much office space do I need to have, and can I create a space where remote work is there for those that actually thrive in remote work.
All right. Okay, that's wonderful. So, for someone who is looking to come into the coaching space, what's that singular advice you give someone who wants to be maybe aspiring to be like you, who's coaching executives? How do you advise the person to start off, and what skills should the person build on?
Being a continuous learner, to be open to other ideas. I think embracing diversity um, in all aspects. And I know there's been a lot of push, particularly in American businesses, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I really think it's more about belonging. Are you the type of person that welcomes others into the mix to share different ideas and generate uh, innovative things to help businesses move forward? And then I think, just I think here's one that I think is it's a caution that I have for the youth that are coming into the workforce or already in the workforce. Your digital presence, be very mindful of your digital presence. It's so easy nowadays for uh, social media to throw out opinions without thinking about it or thinking about other people's points of view, and so many companies are looking at people's digital presence and making decisions on, well, does that person really fit within this culture, because they don't have a filter on what they say or what they post. And I think that is something that is not going to be it, the next generation coming into the workforce, or that's already in the workforce. If they're not careful about their digital presence, it could be career limiting. So I do think that people need to keep that in check. And it's great. I'm all for that. You can speak your mind and have an opinion, but I think those channels sometimes are too easy for people to overlook the fact that your employer may be watching, and you should really think about what you're putting out there. What is your brand that you're putting out there?
All right, great. So, also starting up, how do you reach out to clients? How do you get across to new clients?
I think my biggest thing is always about listening. And I think first it goes back to building your network, because that network is eventually going to either be a client or they're going to refer you to somebody that's going to be a client for you.
All right.
And then, I think that that you definitely have to understand how you articulate and create value with your clients. And I think part of that is listening very carefully to what is it they're trying to achieve, what are their pain points, how can you design something with them that helps alleviate those pain points, and then what's the, not always the return on investment, but what's the value proposition that you would propose to them if they did all these things with you to get to the end result. So I spent the last 12 years running teams that all they did was build value for customers and build business cases. And I think you have to say, I understand what you are trying to achieve. I understand where your gaps are. And if we do these things together, then I can close those gaps and you'll be where you need to be.
Oh, that's great. What was the most striking success for you in this 13-year period?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What was the most striking success? What you feel like yes gives you so much accomplishment?
Um, I think throughout my career, I've aligned myself to major projects that, while they were difficult, the outcome and the impact were. And you have to be very selective on what you do. Are you doing something because somebody told you to do it, or are you evaluating it and saying, what is the outcome and what is the benefit to the business of doing this? But there's one more thing I wanted to say, and I think one of the major pivot points in my career was when I was in Australia and I was building out the APJ region, Asia Pacific region, and there was a position that came up for global vice president for value advisory, and I doubted whether I should put my name in it. I kind of had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and am I good enough? Will I be up against people that are better than me? And my partner encouraged me, goes, you'd be silly not to put it out there. And so it wasn't just about applying for the job. It was about having, understanding what that job meant and having a focus on what would be my 90-day plan if I get this role. What would I go in and do, and how would I explain that to the hiring manager in my interview? And I think that, and I've had to come back to that question on myself over and over and over again in any transition of jobs that I've had is, okay, what would be my 90-day plan? In the first 90 days, what am I going to accomplish? And how am I going to accomplish that? And I think that outside of all the cost savings I've done, the revenue generation I've done in my career, I always come back to that one thing is just have that plan. What is it that I'm going to, when I'm going for that next promotion? So we talked earlier about the person that's at the bottom working their way up. Every time you're thinking for the next level job and you have to go into that hiring manager for an interview, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in the first 90 days? And be able to say that up front. And even if that's not what happens in the first 90 days, at least you're showing them that you're thinking forward, you're thinking ahead, you're thinking about how you can move the needle. And that's something I always come back to.
All right. That's great. So, how do you keep yourself informed and how do you stay with the latest trend in your industry?
Mm. Well, earlier I talked about the certification. So, when you're in your function or your industry, there's a lot of reputable organizations out there. Most there's a body of knowledge that you can keep yourself up on. Definitely using your network. And going back to the certifications, there's a requirement to keep that certification up as you get continuing education credits or CEUs to make sure that you keep that certificate. So that's always the latest and greatest. Going to trade shows, industry trade shows, those are important because that builds your network. You get to hear from keynote speakers that are thought leaders in those spaces. Other things that, there's always following on social networking sites, following different industry, because they will have people out there in their communications and marketing department posting a lot of things that are going on. I think those are the big ones. That's just to stay current.
All right. So, do you sign up for newsletters? Do you sign up for podcasts and all of that?
Yes.
All right. Can you give examples of newsletters you sign up to?
It's important, though, to not get overwhelmed. So SHRM is one for me because I'm in HR. I belong to HRCI. Harvard Business Review is one I subscribe to because they, not even the newsletter, but the website, because they'll send out like a top 10 list. And if I read it in the morning and it's like, oh, there's nothing in there that I really think I want to look at, or there's something in there that I can just click on what I want to read, but I can actually go out to their website and get research articles on specific topics. So, what's another one? I have to go back and look at my LinkedIn. But, Forbes is Forbes. Those are kind of the big ones I look at just to see what's going on. Oh, some of the tech. I do some of the tech stuff just to keep up current on the latest tech that's coming out, particularly in the HR space for me. So,
all right, good. So, what are you seeing in the next 5 years? So, what are your plans in the next 5 years?
So for me, I'm at the point in my career that I could go work for a company, but I think what I'd like to do is take all my experience, and I'd like to do just more consulting, which I'm doing right now with Stratosphere Management consultants and other companies. I mean, certainly it's a paid, I have to make a living, but I really get satisfied helping other companies and actually not just coming up with the idea and implementing it, but actually measuring the success and how we adjust there. how do we replicate that? And then coaching's another thing. I've read what you do, and I'm uh, in admiration of what you're trying to achieve and advising the next generation. I, which made me kind of inspired too to go, well, maybe there's a coaching market, here for me, and helping to one-on-one coach or even group coaching. For I haven't figured that out yet, but I really want to be in the consulting and coaching space as I kind of ease into the last decade of my career.
All right, that's great. So, what do you think about AI and the future of HR?
The future of HR,
Yeah.
um, I think technology has been completely disruptive um, in the HR space. More and more things can be done self-service, payroll and records and timekeeping and all of that stuff. And there's so many um, tools now that everything can be really self-service. I think where HR and that actually created the transformation that HR started to become more strategic into the workforce planning and the analytics and predictive modeling for the workforce. But I also think that the biggest shift has now become the engagement. And for decades, HR's talked about the engagement. There's so many research firms that have proven that higher engagement in the workforce equals better profitability, better operating costs, et cetera. So I really think that HR now is really about experience, and it's what is the experience of the employee from hire to retire, and how do they facilitate the experience along the way. And I think it's still going to be about attracting the best talent and retaining the best talent. But in between those two things, how are it's about company culture. It's about creating an environment where people feel welcome and they belong. And I think it really is all about. It's going to be all about the experience, and that's where HR is going to be, because everything else will be automated and computers or the digitization will take care of all that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the time. I'm indeed grateful. It's been a wonderful experience. All right. Thank you. Thank you.